Joey versus Johnson. After I did the Big 5 versus Yugi and Joey video, I couldn't stop thinking about how insanely broken Johnson's deckmaster was. And how if he wasn't just a lawyer and actually a competent duelist, with that broken deckmaster, I'm pretty sure he could have swept the entirety of the virtual world arc. With that in mind, spoilers, in Johnson's solo duel against Joey, even with a tier 0 deckmaster and cheating, he still loses. How embarrassing. So, the question then becomes, if he played optimally, utilizing his deckmaster to the best of his ability, could it have changed the outcome of the duel? Well, we won't know unless we jump into the duel. As the duel begins, Joey chooses his deckmaster. He chooses the Flame Swordsman. Its deckmaster ability is it can reduce its own attack by multiples of 100 to increase the attack of another warrior monster on the field by the same amount. Note, I don't think that Flame Swordsman can reduce its own attack down to 0, so the max it can reduce its attack down to is 1700. My only evidence for this is on the final turn of the 2v1, Joey gave all but 100 of Flame Swordsman's attack points to Yugi's Dark Magician on the final turn. There wasn't really any reason why he wouldn't have pumped all the attack into it as like a just in case. Maybe he just thought, oh, it's enough, that'll be enough, I'll leave my monster with 100. But I'm just going to assume for this duel, the max he can reduce his monster's attack by is 1700. Johnson chooses his deckmaster. He chooses Judge Man. Its insanely powerful deckmaster ability is, during either player's turn, quick effect, pay 1000 life points, banish all monsters the opponent controls, then inflict 500 damage for each monster banished. Now, just like Joey's deckmaster, it is possible that this insanely broken ability has some extra limitations that are just never mentioned. So it could be like, you have to go around a full turn until I can use the deckmaster ability again. I can only do it under these certain conditions or something like that. I can't use it until so many turns have gone into the duel. This is never stated anywhere, so I am going to go under the assumption that what is stated is what it does. There's no extra effects attached to it. The only thing I'm going to say is that it is definitely a once per turn ability, because I'm pretty sure all deckmasters are. And my evidence to support the fact that I think the deckmaster ability is as broken as it is stated is that when Noah calls out Johnson for cheating in this duel, where he's manipulating the coin flips and everything, Noah never says anything about the deckmaster. He just specifically states he's been altering your luck-based cards, and you feel like he would say, oh, he also buffed his deckmaster. So I like the theory that people came up with that maybe Noah nerfed him after this. It's possible, but personally, I think his deckmaster is as broken as it says he is. So with that all in mind, the duel begins and Johnson goes first. He draws, and his opening hand consists of Hysteric Angel, Leading Question, Quick Attack, Defusion, Painful Choice, and Sinister Justice. Johnson summons his Hysteric Angel into attack, and then ends his turn. Now, Johnson's hand makes me laugh here because it's awful. He has 4 completely dead cards that he can't use because they all require a fusion monster to be on the field to be used. However, he has another card in his hand, Painful Choice. This is a very good card. Banned, in fact, in the real world. When activated, it lets you pick up the top 5 cards of your deck, show them to your opponent. The opponent picks one for you to add to your hand, and the rest are sent to the grave. Obviously, this card is better if you build your deck around it so that the cards that are sent to the graveyard, regardless of what they pick, you benefit from. But what's crazy to me is Johnson will never use this card throughout the rest of this duel. So imagine at the end of every single turn, I'm frothing at the mouth saying just use this card, just try and get something to your hand. And if you think, oh, well, I mean, if he's adding 5 cards, he puts 5 powerful cards for him to potentially add, and 4 of them go to the grave. He can't use those really good cards anymore, but he does get one good one out of it. That's true, but in that case, why put this card in your deck if you never plan on using it at all? Like, it's silly to me, so yeah, it's a misplay from me that he never activates it, and it's a continuous misplay for every single turn because he never uses it. Ridiculous. It's Joey's turn, and he draws. His opening hand consists of Gearfried the Iron Knight, Tiny Guardian, Panther Warrior, Swordsman of Landstar, Gamble, and Bottomless Trap Hole. Joey summons his Gearfried the Iron Knight into attack. He immediately activates his Flame Swordsman's Deckmaster ability, transferring 500 of its attack to Gearfried, making it now stronger than Hysteric Angel. Joey enters his battle phase and attacks and destroys Hysteric Angel. Johnson takes the first damage of the duel. Joey ends his turn. Now, would it have been better for Joey to pump all of Flame Swordsman's attack into his Gearfried the Iron Knight here to do absolutely massive damage? Well, Well, knowing how powerful Johnson's Deckmaster is and that it relies on lots of life points, theoretically it makes sense, but the fact that Johnson could use his Deckmaster ability in response to this and just wipe the monster, then you no longer have a Deckmaster ability anymore for Joey. That's a big loss, so it's actually a good thing that he didn't go too much on the first turn. But that brings up a very good point. Why didn't Johnson use his really broken Deckmaster ability to just wipe that monster and he would have won, he totally would have won. Now, in my mind, I can understand why Johnson might think letting the opponent destroy his Hysteric Angel was the right move rather than just using this Deckmaster ability. Why? Well, in Johnson's mind, he's like, let me think. If I use my Deckmaster ability, I lose 1,000 life points. But if I let him destroy my Hysteric Angel, that's only 500. 1,000 is more than 500. I'll go with the 500 plan. But if that's the case, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life. There's so many more benefits you get than just life point advantage. He would have not only banished Joey's Gearfried, meaning Joey's field is now empty. Joey would have lost 500 life points due to his monster being banished. Johnson's 1,800 attack Hysteric Angel would remain on the field. And on his next turn, he can now push for game. How? Like so. It's Johnson's turn and he Deckmaster summons Judgeman to the field. He enters his battle phase, attacks directly with Hysteric Angel. Joey takes 1,800 damage, attack for game with Judgeman. Now, Joey can Deckmaster summon his Flame Swordsman to try and defend himself, but Flame Swordsman is weaker than Judgeman. Judgeman has 2,200 attack points, so that would be game. You just destroy it. This would have also worked if he attacked the other way around, as Hysteric Angel is also stronger than Flame Swordsman. And I mean, even if it did have enough attack points, he could just use his Deckmaster ability to just banish it anyway on the next opportunity. So, and let's be honest, if he didn't want to risk bringing that Judgeman to the field, because yeah, bringing your Deckmaster to the field is a very scary thing, we could just wait after we've attacked with Hysteric Angel, go back to Joey's turn, he summons some stuff, we can just banish that board, go back to our turn, then attack directly for game. There were so many different opportunities for game if he would have used his Deckmaster ability. Yet again, this duel is another case of people not utilizing their Deckmaster abilities efficiently in a Deckmaster format. Now, the only defense I can give Johnson outside of the fact that, oh, maybe he didn't want to take the extra 500 damage, is he does say at some point that people who are addicted to gambling, the best way to take advantage of them is to give them a full sense of security, let them think they're winning. That way, when they fall hard and they lose all confidence in themselves. So that's his rationale, I think, for not like popping off straight away. But it doesn't make sense. You can just pop off and win rather than do all these extra steps. It's crazy to me. I'm so sick of saying this, but this Deckmaster, oh boy, they made it way too strong. But yeah, huge misplay, Johnson. You could have won. It's back to Johnson, and he draws Skell Angel. With a completely dead hand, Johnson simply sets his Skell Angel face down and ends his turn. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Rocket Warrior. Joey summons his Tiny Guardian to the field. He activates his Deckmaster ability, transferring 300 of Flame Swordsman's attack to Tiny Guardian. Joey moves into his battle phase and uses Tiny Guardian to attack and destroy Johnson's set Skell Angel. Skell Angel is destroyed, however, its flip effect activates, which allows Johnson to draw a card. He draws and gets Mystical Elf. Gearfried then attacks Johnson directly. The attack is successful. Joey ends his turn. Right, there's a few things with this one. First, it's pretty funny if you notice it, but Joey has exactly game here. If he would have put the remaining 1,200 attack points on his Flame Swordsman into Gearfried instead of Tiny Guardian, he could have attacked Skell Angel with Tiny Guardian since it's stronger, then attacked directly with a 3,500 attack Gearfried for exactly game. Now, I'm not going to give a misplay because obviously Joey doesn't know how strong that defense mission monster is, so it's unclear whether he would have got over it. We know this through hindsight, so it's not a misplay, but it's fun to know. Yeah, Joey could have won right here. And of course, as we know, but Joey doesn't know yet, the Deckmaster ability of Johnson's Judgeman could have just banished his entire field, which would have really ruined his day. So in a way, it's good that he didn't go for this play, but that brings up a good point again. Are you ready to hear a broken record? Why didn't he use his Deckmaster ability here? He's only got 1,200 life points left, so he can only use his Deckmaster ability once now. In my mind, that's probably why the animators did this. Get his life points nice and low so he can't spam this ability anymore. And obviously, the reason why he probably did this is because he's trying to give Joey a full sense of security by letting him take the lead. But again, that's just ridiculous. But yes, if he would have used his Deckmaster ability here, he would have banished both of Joey's monsters. Joey would have taken 1,000 damage, and we would have been in a lot better position. It's back to Johnson, and he draws Polymerization. He summons his mystical elf into defense, and then sets Polymerization face down and ends his turn. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Scapegoat. He summons his rocket warrior to the field and then enters his battle phase. Joey starts by using Gear Free to attack mystical elf. However, Johnson finally activates the quick effect of his Judgman Deckmaster. He pays 1,000 life points to banish all monsters Joey controls. Gear Free, Tiny Guardian, and Rocket Warrior are all banished. Joey takes 1,500 damage. Joey ends his turn by setting Bottomless Trap Hole face down. Fun fact, Bottomless Trap Hole's ability is if a 1,500 or more attack point monster is summoned to the field, you can destroy it and then banish it. This will never ever be activated for this rest of this duel because Johnson will never get a monster out with over 1,500 attacks. So it's a great card. It's just going to be dead from now on. It's Johnson's turn, and he draws Curtain of the Dark Ones. He summons it to the field and then uses his set Polymerization to fuse Mystical Elf and Curtain of the Dark Ones together to summon Camion Wizard. Since its attack is below 1,500, Bottomless Trap Hole can't activate. Johnson activates the continuous spell Sinister Justice. This card allows fusion monsters he controls to attack the turn they are summoned. As well, if a level 4 or lower fusion monster inflicts battle damage, he will gain 800 life points. Camion Wizard attacks Joey directly. Since he inflicted damage, Johnson gains 800 life points. Johnson sets his leading question face down and ends his turn. Why didn't Johnson use Defusion to push for game? That Defusion in his hand is never going to be activated for the rest of this duel, and it has so many opportunities to work, and in this example, if he would have used it to split his Camion into its 2 fusion materials, he could attack for game with both. Obviously, the result would have been Joey summoning his Deckmaster to defend himself, but then Johnson also could have just summoned his Deckmaster to then attack and destroy Joey's Deckmaster. Which then brings up a very good point. Can a monster that is Deckmaster summoned be Bottomless Trap Hold? Maybe. Now, in the real world, Deckmaster rules state a Deckmaster summon doesn't start a chain, meaning the summon of the monster can't be interrupted, so Joey wouldn't be able to use Bottomless Trap Hole in the real world. But we're in the anime, so would this rule still apply? So since I can't prove that Deckmaster summons in the anime don't start a chain, I'm going to assume that yes, if he would have summoned his Judgman to the field, Joey could have Bottomless Trap Hold it and won the duel. So Johnson not summoning his Deckmaster for the rest of this duel is now no longer a misplay. Okay? Okay. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Skull Dice. Joey summons his Panther Warrior to the field and then sets his Skull Dice face down and ends his turn. Now, Joey actually has 2 ways of going on the offensive this turn. Either summoning his Panther Warrior into attack, activating Scapegoat, tributing one of the tokens for Panther Warrior to attack Camion Wizard. Alternatively, summon Swordsman of Landstar, put all the remaining attack points of Flame Swordsman into it. Attack and destroy Camion Wizard. It's weird that he didn't do this as well because Johnson doesn't have his Deckmaster ability at the moment. He's only got 200 life points, so this is the perfect opportunity to push for game. However, the reason why he doesn't do these plays is explained by his inner monologue. He's worried about Johnson's set card. He assumes whatever it is powers up Camion's attack, which he correctly deduced, as leading question increases the attack of a fusion monster by 800 when it battles, which you can use set spell cards as quick plays in Battle City in the Virtual World arc, so you'd have activated this, the attack would have gone through, Camion Wizard would have gained 800 attack points, and then Panther Warrior would have been destroyed by the battle, which would not have been great for Joey. So, by Joey setting Skull Dice, he can instead react to Johnson's attack and attack boost instead, which is a good plan on paper. It just would be a shame if someone started manipulating luck-based cards. It's Johnson's turn, and he draws Reinforcement of the Army. Johnson activates his set Leading Question. This continuous spell makes level 4 or lower fusion monsters he controls gain 800 attack when they battle a monster until the end of the damage step. And so, Johnson enters his battle phase and orders Camion Wizard to attack Panther Warrior. It gains 800 attack from Leading Question. Having predicted this play, Joey activates his set Skull Dice in response. This card lets him roll a die, and the result divides a monster's attack by the result. Joey rolls and gets a 6, which would cut Camion Wizard's attack from 2100 to 350, resulting in Johnson's defeat. However, the die suddenly rolls again, this time landing on a 1. Since 2100 divided by 1 is 2100, Camion Wizard's attack doesn't change. Panther Warrior is destroyed. Since a fusion monster dealt damage, Sinister Justice increases Johnson's life points by 800. Johnson ends his turn. Now at this point in the duel, it is actually revealed to us, the audience, that Johnson is in fact cheating. He is manipulating all of Joey's luck-based cards to always result in the worst possible outcome. Now we get a lot of misplays on this show. We also get a few shenanigans every now and then, but this is one of the actual few times in the Yu-Gi-Oh series where I can actually say, Johnson, you cheated. For shame. It's Joey's turn, and he draws Graceful Dice. He summons his Swordsman of Landstar to the field. He then activates his Graceful Dice, which allows Joey to roll a die, and depending on the result, he can multiply the attack of a monster with 500 attack by the result. Joey rolls and gets a 6. This would sextuple his monster's attack, resulting in a 3000 attack Swordsman. However, yet again, Johnson cheats and causes the die roll to roll again. This time it results in a 1. Since 500 times 1 is 500, Swordsman's attack doesn't change. Now, despite Joey having absolutely nothing scary on the field and there being absolutely no reason why you'd want to do this now, Johnson uses his Deckmaster ability. He pays 1000 life points to banish Joey's Swordsman of Landstar. Joey takes 500 damage. Joey ends his turn by setting his Scapegoat and Gamble face down. This huge misplay from Johnson is going to cost him the duel. Not just for the fact that he should save this ability for a more devastating field to wipe, but by leaving a 500 attack point monster on the field, he can slam his monster into it and get an attack boost to do massive damage. He's lost that ability now because he's got rid of his monster, and obviously with Scapegoat coming onto the field, that's going to block him. Obviously he doesn't know he's got Scapegoat, but still, it's ridiculous. So yeah, now with only 800 life points, he can't use his Deckmaster ability again for essentially the rest of the duel. So let's wait and see when that Deckmaster ability would have been really handy to have later. It's Johnson's turn, and he draws Pot of Greed. He activates it to draw 2 new cards. He gets a second copy of Polymerization and One-Eyed Shield Dragon. Now, since Johnson has at least 6 cards in his hand, while Joey has 2 or fewer, Joey activates his set Gamble Trap. This lets him flip a coin. If he calls the coin flip right, he can draw until he has 5 cards in his hand. But if he calls it wrong, he loses his next turn. Joey calls heads. He was correct, but Johnson cheats at the last second and changes it to tails. Since Joey called the result wrong, he doesn't draw any cards and will now have no next turn. Joey makes a defensive play by activating his set Scapegoat to summon 4 sheep tokens to the field into defense. Johnson activates his reinforcement of the army to add a level 4 or lower warrior monster from his deck. He adds Armail. He activates Polymerization to fuse the Armail and One-Eyed Shield Dragon in his hand together to make Dragoness the Wicked Knight, another low-level, low-attack fusion that Bottomless Trap Hole won't work on. Johnson moves into his battle phase and attacks and destroys 2 of the sheep tokens with Camion and Dragoness. Johnson ends his turn. So, knowing that Joey is gonna not have a turn on his next turn, we're gonna go right back onto Johnson's turn. Why didn't we push for game here? The right move was, after destroying those 2 sheep tokens, activate Defusion to summon Armail and One-Eyed Shield Dragon to destroy the remaining 2 sheep tokens. We skip Joey's turn, go back to our turn, attack directly with Dragoness, we win. In case you're unsure, yes, defused monsters at this point in the anime can attack the turn they're summoned after defusion. We actually see an example of this later in the series, where in Yugi's duel against Noah, he defused Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and attacked with all 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons in the same turn. But it doesn't make any sense, so I have no idea. He's just a terrible duelist. Anyway, it's Joey's turn. Oh wait, no it isn't, it's skipped due to Gamble. We're back to Johnson, and it's the penultimate turn of the duel. He draws and gets a mysterious card. Let's just say this mysterious card is another copy of Painful Choice. Why? Because he's never going to activate it. Johnson moves straight into his battle phase and destroys the last 2 sheep tokens with Camion and Dragoness. Johnson ends his turn. Why doesn't he just win the duel? Defuse your Dragoness. Put the 2 monsters on the field. Attack a token, attack a token, attack for game with your Camion Wizard. You win. You just win the duel. I don't understand. He hasn't done any of... Johnson, why are you a lawyer? You are one of the most embarrassing duelists I've ever seen. Not only are you misplaying to hell and back, and you have a tier 0 Deckmaster, but you're cheating, and your opponent just missed the turn, and you still can't win. Dead to me. Dead. Now, at this point in the duel, Noah arrives and calls out Johnson for cheating. He calls him an absolute waste man for manipulating all of Joey's luck-based cards. Which I think is kind of funny because, you know, if Joey would have got all of the results he was supposed to get, he actually got the best possible result with all of it. A 6-roll heads. And instead he got all the negative ones. And Yugi's like, it's very unusual Joey getting 3 terrible results in a row. Something must be up here. But if we went by the actual results, it would have been 3 perfect rolls in a row. And I guarantee Yugi wouldn't be like, Joey rolled 3 perfect rolls in a row. That's a bit suspicious. No, it would have been just like, that's Joey. There's nothing wrong with that, obviously. It's just, it made me laugh. Anyway, fair play to Noah as he attempts to give Joey the win. But Joey convinces Noah to let the duel continue. Noah agrees, and so the duel continues. It's Joey's turn, and the final turn of the duel. He draws and gets Pot of Greed. He activates it to draw 2 new cards. He gets Burning Soul Sword and Arduous Decision. Joey Deckmaster summons his Flame Swordsman to the field. Remember earlier when I said Johnson might regret using his Deckmaster ability, which now puts him at 2 lower life points so he can't activate them anymore to destroy a really weak monster that didn't need to be destroyed by his Deckmaster ability, and he could have used it later to benefit him? Well, this is the moment. He could have used it now to banish Flame Swordsman and won the duel. Terrible. Joey equips his Flame Swordsman with Burning Soul Sword. Now, Joey contributes a monster to increase the attack of the equipped monster by the tributed monster's attack. The problem? Joey doesn't have any monsters to tribute. So he activates his Arduous Decision. Thanks to this card's effect, Joey picks up the top 2 cards of his deck. The opponent then picks one of them. If it's a monster, it's summoned to the field and the other card is added to Joey's hand. If it's not a monster card, both cards are sent to the grave. Joey picks up Shield and Sword and Goblin Attack Force. Joey, for a bit of fun, freely reveals to Johnson what the cards are in his hand. This tells both duelists that there is a 50-50 chance of victory and defeat for both of them. He asks Johnson to pick a card. Johnson correctly selects Shield and Sword. Joey asks,
"Are you sure about that?"
Johnson again correctly deduces that someone who asks, "Are you sure you're sure?" clearly wants you to change your choice, because if he'd picked wrong, Joey would have just instantly revealed the card and won the duel. Johnson bangs his hammer to officially confirm his decision. But Joey then lets out a little smirk. Johnson bricks himself at the last possible second guesses himself, and changes his decision to the other card. Joey instantly reveals it was the wrong choice. And so, Goblin Attack Force is summoned to the field and Sword and Shield is added to his hand. He tributes Goblin Attack Force through Burning Soul Sword's effect to increase Flame Swordsman's attack by the results. Flame Swordsman attacks Dragoness. Even with an 800 attack increase from his continuous spell, Johnson's life points drop to 0. Joey wins the duel. So yes, as we all thought, after analysing 2 duels with Johnson, Johnson is officially to me one of the worst duelists in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh franchise. It's really bad. I think the next thing I need to do with how frustrating Johnson is as a character is I need to take over his body and see how I would duel with his Deckmaster and his deck in the virtual world, going against every single one of the characters. So I think that could be a fun thing to do. I'll try and do that soon. It's gonna be a big video, so I look forward to that. And if you want to see that video, subscribe. That's the best way you can know when new videos come live. But other than that, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you later. Check out one of these videos as well if you fancy.